Welcome to Biz Help for You with host Candy Messer. Entrepreneurs like to focus on the big picture, like profitability, success, and a smooth-running organization. But there always seems to be those little things like taxes, employee compensation, laws, regulations, and more. Now you can get the answers you need in one place. Join us today as we break it all down for you. Now, here's your host, Candy Messer.
Hello and welcome to Biz Help for You with Candy Messer. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed the topic of my last episode, and if you were unable to join me and would like to listen to the show, links can be found on my YouTube and Facebook pages, as well as multiple favorite podcast platforms. If you'd like to receive notifications on when my podcasts have been uploaded, please like and subscribe. Are you an entrepreneur so busy with running your business you sometimes forget about filing deadlines? Did the 1099 filing due date pass you by and you just realized you owe forms to your freelance contractors or other vendors? The good news is that there are different deadlines. January 31st is usually the date that forms are due to contractors. If mailed, they must be postmarked no later than this date to be considered timely. But if you realized before the IRS filing deadline, you won't receive a fine. Small businesses usually have 2 forms they may need to process, although there are potentially others that might apply to your business. The typical forms you may need to file to complete are the 1099 MISC and the 1099 NEC. The MISC form used to be the one main form used, but for 2020 reporting completed in 2021, a new one was introduced, the 1099 NEC. As I explained in a previous episode, the 1099 NEC is used to report non-employee compensation. Therefore, most anyone you pay as a contractor or a business subject to reporting for services rendered to your company will need to receive this form, and it's also submitted to the IRS for processing. If you'd find it helpful to listen to the episode where I discussed all the information about who is subject to reporting, what payments to exclude, and how to complete forms, see the show notes for the link to the episode and a free PDF download. I'll briefly review some of the information in today's episode, but there's a lot more information in the prior recording that I won't share here today. The IRS requires 1099 forms to be submitted so they know how much businesses and individuals must report as income in order to help calculate the tax due. The IRS is aware that many underreport or fail to report at all income they earn, so the onus is put onto companies making the payments. The 1099 NEC has the tightest deadlines for reporting. Both the recipient and the IRS must receive the forms by January 31st, unless this falls on a weekend. Then the due date is the next business day. If you must file returns reporting rent, medical payments, or other forms of compensation reportable on the 1099 MISC, you still have the deadline of January 31st to get the form to the recipient, but you have more time to submit to the IRS. If mailing copy A to the Internal Revenue Service, it must be postmarked by February 28th or the 29th each leap year to be considered mailed on time. Again, if the due date falls on the weekend, you have until the next business day to be considered timely. If you file electronically, forms must be received no later than March 31st or the next business day if falling on a weekend. Based on these dates, you still have time to file the 1099 MISC to avoid being penalized. But it's past the date the 1099 NEC forms were due. So what happens now? My suggestion is to file them as soon as possible. If you fail to file because you don't have the W-9 forms from vendors giving you the information you need, contact them now and ask them to complete the form and send back to you right away. If you have asked in the past, but it was not returned, reach out again and remind them that if they don't submit it to you and you continue to work with them, you'll be required to withhold 28% of their pay and forward to the IRS for income tax withholding. Hopefully, this will incentivize them to send to you right away. Penalties may be assessed if you fail to file Form 1099 by the due date and you cannot show reasonable cause. The penalty applies not only if you fail to file timely, but also if you fail to include all information required to be shown on the 1099 return, or you include incorrect information on a return. The penalty also applies if you file on paper when you were required to file forms electronically, you report an incorrect tax identification number, also known as a TIN, or fail to report a TIN, or if you file paper 1099 forms that are not machine readable. The amount of the penalty is based on when you file the correct information return. It's $50 per return if you correctly file within 30 days of the deadline. $100 per return if you correctly file more than 30 days after the due date but before August 1st. $280 per return for year 2022 and increasing in following years if you file after August 1st or you do not file any of the required information. $570 for fiscal year 2022, and it can increase in the following years for intentional disregard, which the IRS considers to be knowingly or willingly failing to file returns. So if you haven't yet processed forms for your vendors, it's time to review who is subject and prepare all necessary 1099s. If you need more information on who is subject or how to fill in the forms correctly, see the links in the show notes for my podcast on this topic and the free 1099 resource guide download. And if you don't want to process them yourself, contact us right away to assist you. We can be reached at 310-534-5577 or contact@abandp.com. Thank you for tuning in today. I hope you found this topic interesting and that it answered some questions about what to do if you miss the 1099 filing deadline. If you have any additional questions or comments, be sure to reach out to my staff for assistance at 310-534-5577 or contact@abandp.com. And I hope you can join me for my next episode. And remember that you can connect with me on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And my website is www.abandp.com. You can find the podcast posted on multiple favorite podcast platforms, including iTunes, Google, TuneIn, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. And would you please share our show with those you know and leave a review on your favorite platform? I'd really appreciate your support. Thanks so much and have a great day.
Thank you for listening to Biz Help for You. Please join your host, Candy Messer, again next time. Have a terrific day.